Welcome to the party.
I'm sorry, I froze. Let's try that
Froze?
again.
You're
I know I
recording.
froze. I
Oh,
froze. I know. All right, here we go. Three, two, one. Topic Thunder coming at you, Johnny and the Greg.
I don't even think you should edit that. Just leave the whole in.
You know what? I think I'm
Just
gonna
leave
leave
it
it.
in there and be
I'm
like,
gonna leave
yeah,
it
you know what?
because I was just thinking of
It
all the
sucks.
three John Wick movies, and then you said watch party, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what the hell is an online watch party? So
It's kind of like this, except we're watching the same movie.
while we're like on Skype, just
I think. Well, you can do it on Skype. I mean, you can do it on
so
Netflix
you
too.
be watching John Wick and I be watching John Wick and we just hang out with each other, kind of watching John Wick.
Yeah, kind of.
I see.
Yeah,
Social distancing at its best.
yeah. So,
Yeah. All right, Greg. This
all
is
right,
on you, man. What's the
it is
topic?
on. So yeah, the way we've talked about this before, like the way we come up with topics, it was totally random at first, and then we exhausted our random stuff. So we look stuff up now, and there's one I think is it's not a heavy topic.
Okay.
We just did a heavy topic last week, so we're not going heavy again. But one that I think people will fight for tooth and nail.
Cool.
And what the question is, what defines a sport?
Oh.
So when we think about this, when you say sports, people think athletics, and people get very into what defines that.
Mhm.
But when you look at some of the sports that are in the Olympics, not all of them are all that exhausting. No, they all are skill based. There's skill in every single one of them. But this is up for debate on a lot of things. So everything from football to esports. How do you
Oh,
define a
esports.
sports? How do you
Esports.
define a
Okay.
sport?
The way that I would think of a sport. Okay. First off, you need competition. Right.
Okay.
All right. Skill, without a doubt. You need some sort of athletic and or skill. So there needs to be some sort of that combination or both or only one. And then I think the defining characteristic, and it's changed now, it really has,
Mhm.
is it needs to be entertaining for somebody else to watch it.
Hmm.
It
Okay.
needs to be entertaining, right? So, I mean, I was thinking about this, right? I think those are the four criterias you need. Maybe skill and athleticism are this can be kind of mishmashed. You can substitute one for the other.
Er,
Um, you don't think so?
I think they're independent.
Okay.
Um,
So
and
when
part
we're talking about pool, there's no athleticism needed, but there's
no,
skill that's definitely needed.
yes, absolutely. Darts.
Yeah,
You
I
don't.
would call that a sport for people that are. Wouldn't that be called a bar sport?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Right. So,
yeah.
is there anything that you think isn't a sport that, or I'm sorry, is called a sport that shouldn't be a sport?
The, I don't know. And part of the reason I asked this,
I
very
got one.
very recently, ESPN brought back the Ocho. Did you see that?
What's the Ocho?
Oh, don't you remember the movie Dodgeball?
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to ESPN 8, the Ocho, all the obscure sports that you can think about. And they had, and so I was flipping through.
Okay. What'd you
I
get? What'd you
found
get?
competitive bus driving. It was
Okay.
bus drivers
Okay. So
taking
there's a
take,
skill involved.
taking their buses through like an obstacle course. And
Okay.
so there was time. So it was like almost like stunt driving, but not that intense.
Right.
But can you like, we're gonna watch him how he's gonna parallel park this bus. Oh, okay. I mean, it was like somebody taking their CDL
Okay. Okay.
test,
Okay. If I
competing
yeah
against other
yeah
people.
yeah if I was God, you can turn that like Master Chef, those Chef Ramsay shows where they have a bunch of
Iron
cooks.
Chef? Yeah.
Yeah, where they have a bunch of cooks competing against each other. There's a skill definitely involved in that. Not a lot of athleticism, but people watch it. I'm drawn into it now for some reason. That's all I watch now are Chef Ramsay competitive shows.
So you said you have one that would count as not?
Well, I would think Master Chef. Like, would you consider Master Chef a sport?
I never did. I consider it a game, but I never considered it a sport. So it's competitive. There's skill involved, but I always thought of it
Here I got one.
because it came out like a game show almost.
Right. Yeah. But okay, hang on a second. Do you know? Remember? I'm sure you've watched it one time in your life. MTV's The Challenge.
Yes.
Okay, where they have those weird challenges every time, and it challenges you in athleticism, it challenges you in puzzles and math, it challenges you in all these different types of arenas. Is that a sport? Right?
Because I
Or
think
what about that goofy show in Japan that they ad-libbed and they put it English? Wipeout.
Wipeout.
Yes. Is that a sport?
Yeah, I don't know. Because then, I mean, if you say
Or
Wipeout,
American Ninja, or
well, that's just it. If you say Wipeout is not a sport, are you going to call American Ninja a sport? Or because and that originated in, I want to say Japan as well. It was Ninja Warrior, and then we have American Ninja Warrior.
right?
But those are like hardcore athletes
Big time.
doing that.
Big time. I've seen actually very good athletes attempt that and fail.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I saw it was he was an NFL, what is it, defensive end, I think, or a linebacker.
That guy actually he broadcasted it.
No.
Oh, it was somebody else?
No, not
Baya Gij.
Baja.
He was a
Baja Biamil. Yeah, he was a Green Bay Packer.
No, I think that's his brother actually. I don't think it's him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his brother is weird. I shouldn't say a weird name, but he has a very hard name to pronounce.
Baja Biamila.
Yeah. Well, you guys called him KGB, right?
KGB.
Yeah.
I usually mute the announcers because I don't need
Do you
to listen.
really watch football like that?
No, American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But
I think they act a little bit with, but going back to the point.
There was an NFL player who competed, and he made it to, I think, the second or third obstacle, and it just required so much finger strength.
Right. And when you weigh 250,
you're not hanging on.
Yeah.
Not really. But yeah, I mean, one of the major things I think of is golf. I mean, golf is a skill and you are athletic, but it's not the same kind of athleticism that some of the other require. And then that got me thinking about esports, which are growing by leaps and bounds. They are.
Yes, they are.
They are building giant stadiums for esports. It is a skill. It is competitive. So people who want to not think of it as a legitimate sport, I'm like, if we're going to call darts and bowling and curling and some of those other, like, I guess, less intense things, sports, you gotta include.
Well, you know what's funny? When I agree with you. I think that definition is being expanded because I think if you were to ask me this when I was 20, I would have been the macho, cheerleading's not a sport,
Gosh.
and it's big time. It's a big sport now. I'm talking about now when I've actually been out in the world and I've actually experienced life and I've actually seen things.
Cheerleading competition.
Yeah.
This was pre Bring It On, John. Bring It On, John is different.
Right. Yeah. Really interested after Bring It On. All right. I checked out the Oxford Dictionary, how it defines sport
Ooh,
as
okay.
an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or a team competes against another or others for entertainment.
Okay.
Everything we've just talked about would then be a sport.
Yeah. So it
Even
said,
your esports,
yeah, with the exerts physical, what was that line?
uh, an activity involving physical exertion and skill.
And skill?
Uh-huh.
Is it and skill or is it or skill?
And skill.
See, and that's the thing that I think some people trip up on because the physical exertion piece,
Yes.
there are a lot of things out there that are not physically exerting. Like no one, like you brought up billiards, you brought up
I get what you're
darts,
talking about then.
but
Okay,
but
yes.
that's the thing where people say esports isn't a sport because no one's it's not a workout. No one's they are breaking a sweat, but it's not because of like the physical exertion piece.
Well,
And I don't know if I
wait, time out, time out. Maybe they are physically exhausted because the stress level.
I think that's different from what most people are.
Wait,
Like
wait,
their
wait.
muscles aren't moving to the
Right,
right
but we're talking
place.
about definition. We're not talking about what most people think of when it
Right.
comes to exertion. So ever cram for a test and you're exhausted,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
okay? Wouldn't that be the same thing? Their mind is racing as they're trying to coordinate their fingers to do
Yep.
that. So
Well, in some of these,
it might be a
the
physical exertion.
strategy involved, and some of it's high speed strategy involved that these guys got to do.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a sport, but I'm a nerd, so people are like, well, of course you think it's a sport. So I was
You
just
feel
kind
like because you categorize yourself as a nerd that you have to plant your flag in that arena all the time and root and like not
no,
root, but say this is a sport because I'm a nerd.
no, I
Okay.
don't think
All
so at
right.
all
All right.
because as a nerd, and one of the things that it's becoming more and more common is that you can be a nerd and be an athlete. Um,
What about debating? Is that a
is
sport? Is that a sport?
see, I wouldn't. Mm,
Right?
see, I wouldn't. I don't know if too many people would call it a sport. It's competitive. It
Yes.
is you need to
You
have
do
this
you do need a
have
skill.
skill, but it's not. It fits no other definition of yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't
All
know.
right. All right. I found an article called the Retort Collective, and
Okay.
it says, "Is debating a sport?" Debate is not only an immensely fun activity, which I don't know about that. It is a full-on competitive sport. The competitive nature of debate demands not just more proficiency, but complete mastery in the art of persuasion to best any opponent.
That's not untrue
Yeah, I think sport. I, I like this. I like this topic
because
better
you can
today.
go back and forth a lot of different ways.
Yeah, you can. I remember what I'm laughing at is when I was 20, and I remember I think I actually said cheerleading wasn't a sport to make the girl I liked mad at me.
'Cause
I
that
think I
always
used it.
works.
Yeah.
Young men, if you can piss the woman off well enough, you are
Why?
in.
No, just piss them off enough to where they want to like go at you and hit you in a nice way. I'm not talking about like Ronda Rousey hitting, but um, ah. You know what? I think a better question today is what is the hardest sport?
The hardest sport?
The hardest sport, because I
Oh,
think we're talking about levels here. Debate, that's intellectual sport, right?
right. Well, and see, I took it, and this just came out as we were talking, the difference between sports and games. Um,
So,
and well, I don't
oh,
know.
that showed up.
This,
The difference between a sport and a
oh,
game.
really?
A game involves more than one person, and a sport pertains to only an individual's skills and performance. A physical activity, sport, is carried out under an agreed set of rules. Sport is related to recreational purpose, either for self-enjoyment or competition, or for both.
So they're saying it's both. Because does it have to be individual? So that would mean that.
Oh, no. This makes sense. You wouldn't call a debate, okay, a game.
It's competition.
Right, but
Sure.
it's not a game. But it is a sport. So what they're saying is a game involves more than one person.
But then what's powerlifting?
That's not a game.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's a sport.
Okay. All right. Okay. I can see. I guess I see how they're
Does that
doing
make
it.
sense?
Yeah, different than what I was thinking, but okay, I get it.
Yeah. So I think that's how they separate those two things. So like football. So the major games,
Mm-hmm.
people have. I think that's where people trip up between sports and games.
Okay.
I think a lot of people think, well, if it's not a game, it's not a sport. Right? Like, would you consider a cheerleading competition a game?
No, I wouldn't.
Right. Neither would I. But it does fit the criteria, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's multiple people.
Yeah. A game involves more than one person, and a sport pertains to only an individual skills and performance.
So then disc golf is not a game?
Well, no, I'm even confused because what's a meet? Right? Gymnastics.
Oh, you're like the meet. Well,
they call cheerleading a meet.
Yeah, track meet.
Track meet.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. A track meet's a sport because it's an individual person running against another individual person, right?
Not always. I mean, if it's relays or something like that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
But the thing about it, and I think, I think I've never been much of a gymnastics guy, but I think it's the same concept.
Really?
Well, I mean, I enjoy watching it, but I'm not tracking the sport. I'm not tracking the individuals.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah.
Like you can't ask me who my favorite gymnast is, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Mary
love
Lou Retton.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
I have no idea if she's even. Is it Mary Lou Retton a gymnast? Yeah,
she was back in like the 70s and 80s, but where was I going? Oh, just the scoring method. So at a track meet, you have like for the individual events, like I did shot and discus when I was in high school. So you got like your individual placement, but that gave you a point, like a set amount of points that added into the team score.
Okay.
So your team, like you could get first place in your events and your team could still lose. And vice versa. You may do crappy in your events, but your team score may be high enough that you win. Like I get to say that my track team won state for 2 years when I was in high school. I never went to state. So do I get to call myself a state champion? I was on a state championship team.
Yes, you do then. You had some sort of a...
And I throughout the season, I put points on the board for that team. But I never, I never went to state or anything like that. So I mean, if you really want to drill down, and I think gymnastics is the same way. Like you can have an individual do really, really well, and the team could still lose.
Okay, hang on. All right, hang on. We're getting a little down the rabbit hole here because it's what determines whether a sporting event is a game, a match.
Ooh, a match,
or hang on here. What determines whether a sporting event is a game, match, contest, or something else? Yeah. There are many sports and other events that are contested, but why are some contests called matches like tennis match, golf match, a soccer match? And some contestants called a game like a baseball game or football game. It's not a baseball match or a tennis game. So is there a rule of English that differentiates the match for a game? Okay, I'm on a thread. Shoot. Okay.
And some
I don't have
think
an
it's
actual.
just all sports ball.
Yeah. I I'm in a
Oh,
I'm
you're
in
in
a
like
thread here, so
okay.
this is different people's opinions. It's not really.
It's not a research kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I even when I started thinking about this, I'm like, NASCAR. NASCAR is considered a sport because the high level of skill involved, and there is physical exertion on the body
Right, but it's
because,
not a game.
but they're pulling. You know, it's a race.
It's a race. Yeah.
So, but then,
I think we're getting into tomato.
but then there's competitive eating.
Oh, there's exertion with that for sure. But
People,
that would be a match.
people are making a living, and some people a very
Right.
good living out of competitive eating.
But that's a match, right?
I don't know.
That's a match. Wouldn't you think? You wouldn't call it, would you call it a game?
I call it the Coney Island annual hot dog eating contest. So it's a contest.
Contest. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We could go on forever about this, but we're not.
Well, I like to know what other people's opinions of it are.
I definitely want to know.
Because I mean, like a chess match. And is chess an Olympic sport or was it an Olympic sport? I thought it was at one point. If it's not,
Chess Olympic sport, right? Is that what you're asking?
yeah. So you've got something like chess where there is no physical exertion at the time, but that's considered an Olympic sport.
I think it is exhausting.
Yeah. Well, but mentally exhausting.
But that physically drains you.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that back and forth, and I'm like, so I don't know. There was
I don't even know what this means. It says chess was an exhibition sport at the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney.
So exhibition sport means I don't think you could medal for your country. You could play, but
Okay.
they didn't count towards the medals.
Chess is recognized as a sport by the International Olympic Committee.
Well, then there you go. It's sport.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was very recently speaking with.
So what about poker?
If you got to count chess, you got to count chess. I think you got to count. I think you have to.
Yeah, I think you absolutely.
I was talking to a guy who was at doing a school function, and it was for scholarships, athletic scholarships, and what can they consider for athletic scholarships. And someone had, it was bowling. Like he wanted to see bowling because the school had a bowling team.
Yeah.
He's like, this should be eligible to get this scholarship. And at the time it wasn't. Because they're like, well, you can't, the bowling team is so small. They're not really recognized like by the whatever, like WIA or whatever it was. And so they were going to tell him no. But then that brought up this big debate of like, no, bowling is a sport. There's a definite physicality to it.
Yeah.
And skill and everything else. And so you should be eligible for the scholarship. So I don't know. That was kind of what brought it up. But yeah.
It's really interesting. There's a lot of things that we can go into, make other topic thunders about this for sure. Yeah. Cool. So I don't think we've answered any. Well, we've answered the question, but
we think in my opinion, yeah. If it's competitive, if there's a level of skill set to it, I believe it can be considered a sport.
All right, I agree. All right, we'll end it there, and we'll go into our fact of the day. Let me hit that. There's an autoimmune disease called an anti-NMDAR, and syphilis identified in the last 10 years, which has all of the symptoms that used to be blamed on demonic possession. It affects mostly young women and can come on with no warnings whatsoever. Hey, Greg, you got a pen and paper?
No.
Okay.
Like, I
Can you
mean,
get,
yes.
can you get one? All
I
right.
don't.
Spell this out and tell me how to say it.
Oh God. Okay. Hit.
ENCEPHALITIS.
Yeah, you lost me because my pen ran out.
Uh,
ENC.
Encephalitis and hang on. Encephalitis.
Spell it again. ENC.
ENCEPHALITIS.
Encephalitis.
And syphilitis identified in the last 10 years.
Encephalitis. Yeah, where's Erin when we need her?
No kidding.
She'd have
All
us
right.
down.
Well, Aaron, comment below. Yeah. All right. And that ends our fact of the day. And
Demon
that ends our
possession.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, that ends our time on Topic Thunder featuring Johnny and the Greg. As always, take care, people. Topic Thunder out.